All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Rags to Riches. Today, I have a special guest, Sarah, and let me tell y'all, she is from London and she has the most beautiful, loveliest accent I've ever heard. I keep telling her that I'm just tickled because this is so awesome. But today we will be talking about healing your inner child. And you guys, you know you're always welcome to comment if you have any questions that you would like to ask her. Um, so what made you want to start helping people healing their inner child?
Right. Hi, Sheila. Hi, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for having me. First of all, really excited and honored to be on your show.
Thank
And I
you.
look forward to bringing out the best that I can. And what made me want to help people heal their inner child? Now, first of all, before we even go there, what is the inner child and healing of the inner child? We all have that child within us. We all have, much as we might be grown and we think we've grown up as adults, but there is that child within us who was maybe traumatized, who went through some sort of childhood traumas, and they never got a chance to heal that, because as we grow, life happens, and we sort of think that time will heal everything. And guess what? Time doesn't heal everything. And what happens is these things tend to show up in different ways in how we behave. We get triggered by people. We avoid situations because we remember there's that inner child who never, maybe who was neglected, and they sort of feel like, oh, this person, like as adults, will pick up on such things. Like if we're neglected as children, we're going to pick up those things as adults, and they're going to cause different issues in our lives. So what made me want to do this? Well, I happen to have been a child at some point, and I happen to have gone through things. I lost my dad when I was 4 years of age, and I struggled to connect with the opposite sex, because I felt like they were going to hurt me. I don't want to talk to, I cannot trust them. And as a child, I was 4 years of age, I just shut everything out. Like I just used to lock myself up in the room, and I used to do things like reading and that sort of thing just to run away from what was. So as an adult, I realized that I'm doing exact same thing I used to do as a child, except I think I'm an adult, I can do whatever I want, but obviously I'm repeating the things that I used to do as a child when I went through this trauma. So why I wanted to help people was because I went through a healing process without even realizing that I was going through the process. And then I woke up one day and realized, oh, I don't feel like this anymore. I don't get triggered anymore. I don't feel anxious anymore. I don't feel angry towards certain things. And then I look back at what had changed. And in the process of looking back at what had changed, I got that light bulb moment, and I realized that I had gone through a healing process. And then I went back and documented what I'd done. Like it had taken me like 2 solid years of searching and working on myself. And I realized that, okay, there is a system to this. There's a system which I managed to put together. I sat down, wrote this down in a book, and
Awesome.
and here we are. So it has become my thing, and I'm very, very passionate about it, because I know that it does it 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 actually brings out the best of ourselves once we heal our inner child. Without doing that, there's a separation of who we are and who we think we are, who we really are. Because who we really are, we knew that as children, and who we become is usually created by what surrounds us, and the things that we do. So when you do the inner child healing, you bring these things together and you reconcile your inner child, and you become a wholesome person. I hope I brought that out well.
You absolutely did. So, how would they know if the healing process works?
How will they know? Obviously, before someone starts with the process, what I tend to do is I point out a few things. I'll point out like we act differently because of the things that are underlined, the concealed personality. We have that concealed personalities whereby, say, someone might be angry towards a certain sex, right? And because that is concealed, it will show up in different ways. And so, what I tend to do is, what I advise people to do is to sit down and actually do a self assessment, right? Say, for example, when you go out in public, when you go out to hang out with people, do you like to socialize, or are you one of those people who sit in the corner and
Right.
you're there but you don't want to be seen? So there are little subtle things that will show that you actually are hiding or running away from something, or somebody says something and you just lash out at them and go like, oh, why are you talking to me like that? And if we take time to sit back and go like, okay, why did I even do this? Why did I speak like this? I mean, they probably meant well, but why was my reaction like this towards them? And usually that's when you realize that, okay, I have something that I need to work with. Just like someone who is recovering from I say someone who is recovering maybe from a habit, right?
Right.
And maybe smoking or drinking or taking substances. They have to actually get to a point where they realize that they have a problem, right? And once they realize that they have a problem, then they can work on that. So these are things that we take for granted that we don't probably even take time to think about. But we have these things in our day-to-day lives. Like your boss talks to you and you sort of go like, why should you talk to me like this? Or you feel like your colleagues are not friendly towards you, but most times it's because you're telling yourself that people don't like you, telling yourself these stories. So if you can stop and every day to even analyze, why did I react like this towards this person? Why did I feel this way when somebody said such and such? Then you can go back and actually pinpoint. It is a process, but you have to actually first and foremost identify that issue, and then look at working at healing that particular issue.
Right. So, does meditation help?
Yes, it's one of the tools that I actually do encourage, because when you meditate, we sort of detach from everything else, and we're able to actually look within ourselves and yeah, embrace who we really are. So meditation would be a great way to start. Going for a long walk. When you go for a walk, it's just yourself and your thoughts, right? But meditation, walking, yeah, they would help. They do help.
Absolutely. So, what are some of the ways that helped you heal your inner child?
Sorry, say that again.
What are some of the ways that helped you heal your inner child?
Right. So, first of all, I didn't even realize that I needed to heal. I knew, say,
Right.
for example, my dad having died at such a young age, I thought I'd never missed him. I thought, oh well, he was never there, so I can miss him, right? And then I realized that I did actually miss him, and I decided to do things to run away from that. So what helped me heal was, first of all, acknowledging the problem, and then embracing it, and then looking for tools. So in the process of looking for tools, I used to meditate. I used to take time out literally every day and write down why I feel the way I feel and what I would like to change and why I would like to change it. I like to write, like you find me most of the time with a pen and paper. And that process of writing helped me to bring everything to the surface, everything that I was running away from, to bring it to the surface, then go like, okay, I'm going to deal with this today. And then I would sit down and yeah, literally like peel the, like the way you would peel an onion. So I would sit down and go
By
through the
layers.
process. Yeah. So what helped me was acknowledging, embracing, and then walking through everything, meditating, walking, running, anything that would bring me to me, would introduce me to my inner self.
Okay. I have one of our viewers wants to know, did you seek therapy or was it self-healing?
I would say 90 or 80% of that was self-healing. But in that, during that time, I used to go for spiritual guidance. I used to go to this particular place, and we had a community, and I had someone I used to talk to, someone I used to ask questions, right? So in that process, I read a lot of books as well. So this person used to encourage me to dig some more. He used to encourage me to to do the things that I needed to do during that time. So I didn't go for therapy, but it was mostly self-healing, until one day when it was literally during my meditation that I got this, I had this thing telling me, you need to write, you need to write, you need to write. And I used to go like, but I don't write. What am I going to write? But it was that nudge about writing a book. And then one day during this meditation, the entire process literally sort of downloaded, right? So once I downloaded that, I went and sat in a coffee shop, and I wrote down the process of, yeah, the process of healing. So it was mostly self-healing.
Absolutely. That's great. So is there is it good to have like conversations with your inner child?
Yes, it is. That yes, yes.
Is
I'll tell you what, that was one of my favorite moments, because uh, I remember I did, at one point I went like, okay, I need to talk to this young Sarah. I need to talk to the 4-year-old and tell her everything is going to be okay. So I literally, during my process of healing, during my process of looking back at what I needed to, once I brought everything to the surface, I used to talk to this little girl at different stages of her life, looking at the things she went through and what I would have done differently and how I would have talked to her, right? Because nobody talked to me back then. I
right.
just used to lock myself up. So I used to talk to this girl. I gave this girl a name, my pet name, and then it was me, as it was the adult me. So I would talk to her from the age of 4. I would talk to her when she was 7. I would talk to her when she was 10. And then I met her. And in the process of talking to her, it doesn't matter how long it takes. It could be 3 weeks, it could be 3 months, it could be 3 years. So you have to do it to a point that you feel like, you know what, she understands now. She's at peace with what happened at age 4. Now you talk to the 7-year-old you, and then I'll talk to that person until when she was at peace with that time of her life, until when she was a teenager. She was 17, she was 16, she was 17, she was 18, and then she was becoming this young lady, and then she was proud. And at some point the two people meet halfway, or they met halfway, and sort of had, and they realized that they are one person, and she actually turned out all right.
Absolutely. That is great. So how can a person identify their childhood triggers?
The triggers, right? So most cases you find that you might there is also the outer, most of these are in my book, where you find like when you can do your self-assessment. But
Mhm.
most triggers will cause anxiety, right? Anxiety doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen like, oh, something happened to me yesterday. It's usually concealed within us. There's usually that pain within us that has been, or has so many layers upon it, that it gets to a point that it is very, very hard to identify it. And I would say that if someone is going through this process, I would encourage someone to get someone to hold. They could maybe go for therapy or have someone to not hold you accountable, but to give you a shoulder to cry on. Because I'll tell you what, at some point you're going to uncover so much that you're going to probably cry. Probably
And it's
cry.
okay to cry.
It is
It's
okay.
okay.
It is okay.
Absolutely.
In my case, I cried for about 24 hours nonstop.
Oh, wow.
And I got a message recently. This young lady read this book, and she had been on antidepressants for 10 years. And she said, Sarah, this just helped me realize what I need to work with. And sadly, she only read the book, like the first part of the book. And she said she couldn't stop crying. So yeah, she just couldn't stop crying. But the thing is, if you're going to go through the process, I would suggest you have someone next to you. How do you identify these things? There's so many triggers. Some of them are very, very subtle, and others not so subtle. So some of the triggers are obviously someone just doesn't have self-esteem. But there's a reason as to why that person doesn't have self-esteem. And in most cases, we're not even able to point out why we don't have the self-esteem. Sometimes you talk to someone and they'll say, I would have done that, but I don't think I can do it. They don't think they have the ability to do it. So I call them negative emotions, any negative emotion that one might have is usually connected to a certain point in their life when they're a child or children that created that thing within them. Right now, they might not be able to pinpoint it, but any negative emotion that we have repeatedly is usually connected to that inner child part of us that needs to heal.
Absolutely. Well put. So what are some of the internal boundaries that needs to be sought?
So say that again, sorry.
What are some of the internal boundaries that needs to be sought within yourself, within your inner child?
Some of the internal boundaries as an adult. Okay, right. So sometimes we have fear. Fear is so inbuilt, like it's so within us, but fear is usually connected to that, to some things. What is it that we're afraid of? What is it that we are so afraid of that we some people won't even step out? So anything that manifests itself as an external manifestation usually is connected to that internal. I call it the internal software, right? So that software is usually operates according to what we have inbuilt within us. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. So I know you were saying that you lost your dad at a young age. So within that, did you have to just basically kind of heal yourself for that to heal yourself now as an adult?
As a child, you don't even know what you're doing because what happened was tragic. He died in a car accident.
Oh, sorry to hear
my
that.
mom, yeah. So my mom being certainly a single mom of a few children, she had obviously to take care of herself. So I didn't think of healing myself. I just thought of escape. So I used to create something to escape to, something to look forward to. I used to lock myself up in my room, and I used to think of some beautiful places. I used to think of sceneries, things I would do when I grow up, or I would literally transport myself to some beautiful place just to run away from this. So in the interim, I just escaped the moment every day. Every day I found ways to escape that. Children will maybe lash out. Others you'll find them bullying other children. Others will maybe just have different habits, maybe eating habits. Maybe they don't eat. Maybe they eat more than they should. So it's these things, the changes that happen soon after a tragic has happened. So in my case, I didn't. You don't heal yourself as a child. You run away from it.
Right.
You create a different space just to run away from what just happened.
Right. And that was going to be my next question. Like, do people tend to put up a defense mode because of what happened to them as a child?
Absolutely. You know that saying, hurt people hurt people?
Hmm. True.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Um,
most times, obviously, yeah, we know that it's linked to something.
so what is one thing you wish you can change about your childhood, if any?
If one thing I could change,
Yes.
I probably would have sat down with my mom and talked to her. But the question is if she would have been willing to talk, because she
Right.
chose not to talk. What would have
Wow.
changed? I would talking to my mom, and asking questions. Because I realized that while she wasn't talking about anything, I wasn't asking questions either. I literally just woke up and stopped asking them. At the back of my mind, I used to think he's going to come back one day, he's going to come back one day, he's going to come back one day. But I
Right.
never talked to anyone. I never spoke about it. And throughout my childhood, I never ever brought up that topic at all. So maybe I would have talked to my mom. And now looking back, if somebody has a child or children who are going through stuff, maybe they should encourage them to talk, to ask them questions. Is there anything you want to talk about? Is there anything bothering you? Or if they lash out at other children, instead of as punishing them, we can go back and go like, hey, something you want to tell me, like try to bring them closer to you so that they feel comfortable to open up. It could be a sister, your young sister, brother, or you know a child near you. So talking, I think, would have helped a lot during that time,
Absolutely.
even
So,
in shaping up making things less painful.
right. So it's best to at least try to talk to your parents, if no one else. At least try to talk to them to, to help you heal as well. So that sounds,
Absolutely.
yeah, that sounds
Absolutely.
really good. That's
I,
awesome.
I also believe that when a child opens up to their guardian, parents, mom, dad, it helps that parent as well to heal, because sometimes parents do not know how to talk to this child. They might not even know how to address this issue. And as long as the child is quiet, the guardian is going to be quiet as well. But if the child can open up, then maybe it would help the adult to heal as well from a child's perspective.
Okay, so a viewer wants to know, with dealing with the childhood trauma, how do you cope with it um in a relationship?
Mm, in a relationship, right? So most cases, and again, I'm going to give reference to one of the responses I got from a lady who read my book, and she is in her 50s. She says she had been going for therapy and seeking help for so many years, where she had gone through childhood trauma with her dad and her brothers. And that manifested itself in relationships where she was constantly nagging her husband. And apparently, it led to her divorcing her very first husband.
Oh,
So you find, yes, she never trusted him at all. It didn't matter what he did, never trusted him. But after going through this, she realized that it's because she saw what her dad used to do to her mom, that
oh,
she manifested this, that she cannot trust a man. So once she got married, she was like, I cannot trust this man. Nice as he was apparently one of the nicest men. She just couldn't trust him. Her second husband, she was again doing the same thing. doing the same thing. So these things do show in our relationship, especially when it comes to trust. We decide not to trust our partners because we think they're going to repeat the same stuff went through before. I like this analogy. I don't know if you've heard of it before, where a this young lady or this lady used to cook a piece of meat. I think it was lamb chop or something, and she used to chop off ends each time. And she used to make this special on Sundays. And her husband once asked her why she chopped off the ends, and she always went like, "Well, my mom used to do this." And one time, the husband decided, you know what? Let's call your mom, find out why why she had to chop off the ends. So they ring up the mom, and her mom says, "Well, that's the recipe." And the husband was like, "Well, where did the recipe come from?" And the mother-in-law says, "Well, I got that from my mom." So they ring up grandma, and grandma says, "The reason we used to chop off the ends was because we used to have very small pots."
Oh, and also I know, like as a child, and you see things in a home, to you is right. So when you get as an adult, even though you know it's not, just because what you see is what you tend to do as an adult. So
Yeah.
is that a way that they can kind of wing away
So
from that, or basically just therapy?
therapy, but before you even go for therapy, is to ask yourself, why am I behaving like this towards my partner, right? I like to think that when you meet someone, you both come from different backgrounds, different upbringings. Best thing is, or would be, to forget everything you've learned to this point and sort of try to learn this person from now on in. And each time, I love, right? Because when you're in love, you are more likely to see things from a positive perspective. And when we use love to address issues, we're more likely to get solutions as opposed to to criticizing someone. So if these things show up in a relationship, and again, it's very hard to go through this, like to give particular examples, but if these things show up in a relationship where you are bringing up, or you feel these negative emotions coming up, it's good to stop ourselves and actually ask ourselves, why am I behaving like this? Where did I first see this? Like you just said, when we grow up as children, we see these things happening in our homes. So if we're repeating this, and I used to catch myself sometimes go like, I'm not my mom, I'm not,
Right.
so if we can actually catch ourselves and go like, okay, right, he's done this and I'm feeling like this right now, but why am I feeling this way? How can I address this without criticizing him? And
Right.
it's in those moments where we feel triggered in a relationship, that we might be able to pinpoint where that behavior came from, and then look at working at that particular issue, at what really happened, and actually give yourself that space to address, however small it might seem. It might seem small because our brain is trying to protect us, but if
Right.
anytime you pick up on something, look back, instead of criticizing your partner, why do I feel like this? Why? It's not him, he is just the messenger who is helping you to heal. Because I
Right.
believe that every person who comes in our lives, especially our partners, they come to help us heal, and we help them to heal as well. So yes, to look at that thing and look back at where you first saw it, and chances are you have seen it somewhere, most especially as a child.
Absolutely. The viewer wants to know if did that affect you in school?
Absolutely. For the longest time, I used to I used to sit in the corner. I never wanted to play with other kids. I never wanted to,
Um,
yeah, I was that girl who was timid.
right. Well, I can understand that. I mean, like you say, you when you were young, you lost someone very close to you, your dad. So your mom had to raise you and your siblings. So you know, you're mad. So
Yeah,
you're just, you don't want to be bothered.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I can understand that. So what would you tell someone who's trying to heal?
Take it easy, be gentle, take it easy. Sometimes you might think that, oh, you know what, I've gone through everything. There is always that extra thing you could do. But if you're trying to heal, get some time. It could be once a week if you can. If you can every day, even better. But give yourself that gift, because when you heal, you'll be amazed at the things you'll discover. You discover life, literally. You'll discover a whole new life. So yeah, take it easy, be gentle with yourself, and yeah, enjoy the journey.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love it. And before we end here, definitely, Sarah, let them know where they can purchase your book from.
um
And if you have a podcast, absolutely let them know where they can go and follow you.
right, thank you so much.
You're
And thank
welcome.
you everyone who has tuned in today. My book is on Amazon. It's Alchemy of Happiness, and it's a very simple, not simple, it's a practical book. So the book is not something you sit back and read. It is something that is being systematically put together to help someone go through the process of healing. It's on Amazon, and I can be found on most social platforms. Sarah Be Nice, and on my website, which is sarahbenice.co.uk. And I'm very responsive as well on the email, which is benice@sarahbenice.co.uk. I am so looking forward to hearing from you. And if you have any questions, please, please, please feel free to drop them. I will respond.
Thank you so much for being a guest. I enjoyed you so much. Guys, y'all go
Uh,
on Amazon, purchase that book, go and follow her on her platforms. And again, Sarah, thank you so much. I really enjoy it. And again, I love your accent. I know I can't say
I'm so nervous
but
about that. And
I love
I
it.
forgot, there's a podcast, and there is quite a few topics discussing the inner child. So mental health, inner child. The podcast is the Be Nice Show. So you can check it out as well.
You guys definitely check her out. And again, Sarah, thank you so much for being a guest. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Till next time, y'all have a good night. Peace.
Thank you.